Hey there, it's Tresa. I am back with a great, delicious recipe for you guys today. We're making vegetable soup. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, thanks so much. Welcome back. I'm so glad to have you. So what we're making today is super simple and easy vegetable soup. You can make vegetable soup with just about any vegetables that you have on hand, and that's what I'm doing today. So I started with some leeks that I had already pre-chopped in my freezer, and some roasted garlic that I had frozen as well, and a healthy amount of butter. I like some good healthy fat to go in there, and I love the flavor of butter in vegetable soup. You could also use olive oil or like an avocado oil or something. And what I have for vegetables today is whatever I had on hand. I have some beets, so I chopped up a beet. I've got some delicata squash and some carrots. And now that these leeks have started to soften up a little bit, I am going to dump these in and just let these start to kind of cook a little bit before I add my liquid. So I'm going to just stir those up. Not for a long time, but just a little bit. You want them to start to maybe just sweat a little bit. I have this on about medium right now, just to start to get things going. Now I also have potato and a pear. So they're all, I pre-chopped everything and had it ready to go because it's just so much easier to do that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a little bit of seasoning, and I'm going to use some pink Himalayan salt, and I'm going to add a generous amount of that just to kind of get that. And I'll taste it partway through and add some more. And I'm going to add some oregano. Now I may go back later and add a little bit more of this, or maybe I'll decide to add some basil or rosemary, some other seasonings. But I want to start with this and see how the flavors of the vegetables taste as it starts to cook. All right, so this is just starting to cook down a little bit. Mostly it's just really going to cook once I put the water in. So I'm going to add the potatoes, and as far as amounts go, it really depends on how much you want and how many people you're serving. I did one fairly good sized beet, about 4 smaller carrots, and one delicata squash that was probably like a medium sized squash, 1 pear, and it was a pretty ripe pear. That's going to just kind of really cook down and melt into it, but it's going to add a little sweetness to the soup. So I love soups and stews in the winter because they're just warm and delicious. It's a great way to get lots of vegetables, and it's just really very yummy and delicious. Now the only other thing I need to do for right now is just add some water. So I've got several cups of water here, probably 4 or 6 cups of water. I'm going to start with that. I'm going to pour it in. And then I may add a little bit more. But what I also have going on the stove back here, I'm not sure you can really see it, but back here I have some, all the scraps from my vegetables. Like I had roasted some Brussels sprouts, and I have the like the ends of the squash, and peels from the potatoes and whatever I had, and I threw that all in a pot with some water, and I'm going to let that simmer down and make like a vegetable broth. I'll probably throw that into this pot eventually. I'll let it cook for an hour or 2, and this soup is just going to cook down until the vegetables are tender. I like to let it just kind of sit on the stove for several hours. It's still morning time, so it'll be ready for like a late lunch or an early dinner. But it's also great because you can freeze it well. You can keep it in the fridge and have a great lunch or dinner soup that you can serve with a salad or as a side, or you can add some meat to it if you want to for some extra protein. I'm going to add some beans to it a little bit later, but the beans are jarred beans or canned beans. And so I want to let this cook down for a bit because canned beans are already cooked. So I want to let the vegetables cook for a while before I add the beans. And then later on, I'm going to add some greens to it too. So I'll come back and I will share all that with you in a little bit. Another step in my soup recipe. I'm adding a can of cannellini beans. Now you could use dried beans and cook them and then add them, but I happen to have these, so I thought I would just kind of use them up. So I'm literally just going to take this can of beans and I'm going to pop it in with the soup. And then I will give it a nice stir. And the soup is close to being done. I like to put them, I don't want to put them in with the raw veggies because they're pretty much cooked if they're in a can. They've already been cooked and processed. But I do like them to get a little softer. So this soup probably needs another hour or so. Some of the vegetables are not quite as tender as I'd like them to be. So I'll put it in now and let that really start to... the beans will get soft along with the rest of the veggies and they'll cook up a little bit more, also absorb some of the flavor of the soup. It's really pretty because of the beet. The soup is pink. I'm kind of excited and I'll show you a picture of that once it's done. And it tastes delicious. I am going to add a little bit more seasoning to it now that I've tasted it, now that the broth has been cooking in there. And so yeah, I mean, soup just needs to cook for a while, but it smells really good in here and it's going to be so delicious to have for dinner later. And it's one of those days I'm just getting a lot of cooking and things done in the kitchen, but I'm going to have soup all week now and it'll be great for, like I said, I can add some chicken to it if I want to. I could even add like shrimp one night if I wanted, or some beef, ground beef cooked, or whatever I have on hand, and add some protein to it, or just eat it the way it is because it's quite delicious and it's got the potatoes in it. So it's going to be really nourishing and delicious soup, and super delicious. Those, I put 3 cloves of roasted garlic in that one pot. So that garlic is just going to melt away, and I'll check it in a little while. And if it isn't, I'll kind of mash it up a little bit more and make sure that really infuses the flavor in the soup. And the beets and the pear give it a little bit of sweetness, and it's tasting delicious. So, yeah, I'll share the next step in a little bit. My soup is finished. I'm so excited. It tastes delicious. One more last step though. I had some arugula in the freezer. I like to add greens at the very end so they don't cook as long and they just stay brighter green and really yummy. So I'm actually going to take the soup off the heat. Sorry. And I'm just going to add these, this arugula. So it's a little mushy because it was in the freezer, but that won't matter because it's just going to cook down in the soup anyways. So just being in the hot soup, it's going to cook right down. And it will really just only takes a couple minutes. The greens don't even have to really be cooked, but just the hot soup will cook it down and add some nice extra flavor and nutrients. Greens are so good for you. Now you could add spinach or kale or any other greens that you might prefer. I happen to have the arugula and I love that. The soup is a little bit sweet from the pear and the beets and the carrots. And the arugula has a little bit of, like a tang to it. I love arugula. It's got a little bit of a spice kind of. And so I think the taste of the arugula with the sweetness of the soup is going to be really delicious. And so that's going to be my dinner in a little while. I'm super excited. I hope that you enjoyed watching me cook this super simple, delicious recipe. Healthy eating can be simple, my friends. Follow me and subscribe so you can catch all my videos, and let me know what you want me to cook and share with you. And God bless you. I hope you have a wonderful day. Look at that delicious veggie soup.